Good morning, amazing AIS educators. Thank you for tuning in. The purpose of this video is to provide you some updates on what has happened since Thursday afternoon and up until this point today. So here we go. We know that a staff member who is on quarantine, a grade 1 TA, of her own volition got a COVID test and it turned out to be positive. When the TA then informed us, the doctors immediately began contact tracing. And it's important to note that the doctors in our school are the ones who do the contact tracing. So let's kind of take a pause and delve deeper into what that looks like. First of all, contact tracing in this case really relies upon people's memory, because the last time the newly positive staff member was on campus was the previous Thursday, the 5th, during parent-teacher conferences. So when the doctors then began calling people who were in contact with the teaching assistant, they had to think back 7 days in the past as to what had happened, who they were in contact with, where they went. We then made the decision, based on health and safety, to quarantine all of the teaching assistants in KG1 and KG2. But that didn't stop the contact tracing quest that the doctors went on, and they kept phoning people and gathering more and more information. So this morning I woke up to the news that not every teaching assistant in KG1, KG2 were exposed to the grade level, the grade 1 TA. So therefore some were, some weren't, and we updated those individuals today. Now, one logical question comes out of all of this, and that is one of exposure. And people could ask the question, should ask the question, well, why am I not the one being asked to quarantine? So let's rewind back to very early August, when our daycare had some scares with COVID. We never had COVID in the daycare, but we certainly had scares, and I was a part of that as my son was attending daycare at the time. And what we determined is that if you are one step removed or more, then you do not need to quarantine. You're a secondary contact or further on down the line. So we've already had the precedent of, with staff children, and received no pushback at the time, that secondary contacts were okay to still come to school. And this also follows CDC guidelines that secondary contacts are at a much lower risk. Again, the learning here from contact tracing is that it really relies on people's memories. It's also a very lengthy process that requires a phone conversation or an in-person conversation whenever possible. So tomorrow, when we begin school, there will be a number of quarantined individuals in KG1 and KG2, but we are able to still operate. Now, this is juxtaposed with a tremendous push from the parents. The parents have begun to organize themselves in KG1, KG2, and grade 1, and they want to extend their organization up to grade 2 and 3. And the whole purpose of this is to demand that AIS bring back their students 100% and do away with the cohort system. You need to know that because we are holding back the tide and already have a list of over 100 parents who are pushing very hard to force us to go back online. So what you might, not back online, back face-to-face. So what you're not necessarily seeing is your administrative team standing up to these parents and saying, No. And that is due to health and safety reasons. It's also quite curious that when grade 1 is quarantined and KG1 and KG2, those parents have been communicated with about the newly exposed teaching assistants primarily. A few teachers are in there as well. It doesn't necessarily follow logic. What this also highlights, though, is that we are one of the, if not the only, school that is still hybrid and not bringing children back. And that is because we are fighting so hard to keep everyone as healthy as possible. However, we need to get your observations and your wisdom in order to make a plan, in the hopes that we never have to use a plan in order to do one of two things. Either moving 100% online, which at this point might be the most likely outcome, or 100% back face-to-face, which again is probably the most least likely. Now, when I say plan, we hope to never use the plan, but we need your input, we need your wisdom, we need your thoughts on the creation of a plan. The idea is not to say yes or no, the idea is to make a plan in preparation for this. It's been a very long weekend. Many of us have not had a lot of rest or time to think, and we know that this is also renting space in your head, that you are worried and concerned. So please continue to speak your truth, continue to find solutions, continue to presume positive intent, continue to follow the 7 norms of collaboration, and we will get through this. We will, and we will continue to hold back the tide of parents who seem to argue two contradictory opinions. They want their children to be happy, healthy, and safe, and they also want them to be back back in school 100%. You know, you balance. It's a juggling. So thank you so much for listening. I will see all of you tomorrow. Remember to hug a puppy and stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Thanks for watching.